Well, I want to thank everyone for coming to the fall scoop of history at the Black Hills Steam and Gas Threshing Bee. This is the 50th anniversary of the Black Hills Steam and Gas Threshing Bee. It was started in 1969. The first one was held at the Alkali Community Hall down the road. 68. Okay.
That makes it 50 years, though. 68 to now?
Yeah, yes, you're right. So, and then it was held, it was purchased, this ground was purchased from the Clarice Canoyer family by the Western Dakota Antique Club. And then it was moved up here in 72, was the first year for the show here. So we've been slowly adding buildings, exhibits, everything since. So I want to thank everyone for coming. The rain really made everyone scatter. Of course, when it came, everyone left. So I want to thank everyone for coming out here, braving the weather. I really don't know some of the speakers, some of the people that I had talked to in previous weeks. Don't know if they'll actually show up just because of the weather. So I guess we're just going to kind of go along with with who we do have here and kind of share some stories and maybe even extend it out from where we were planning on just the Divide, Bearview Valley, Tilford areas. If anyone, from Meade County want to share some stories from Sturgis, we'll kind of go from there. I do want to introduce a few people that are here. Adam Grubel. He's yeah. This is Adam Grubel, and his brother here is Lucas Grubel. They're both fifth generation? Sixth generation. So, on their ranch, about 7 miles east of here. Also, Keith Myrick. He's another one of our board members. What generation are you?
Only
Fourth generation on the Wyrick Ranch out by what used to be Volunteer, South Dakota, right on the Belfouche River. And then, of course, we have Ernie Miller here. He grew up, what was it, the Buzzard Peak area?
Yeah.
Which would be down here in Bearview Valley. So we've got some young people and some old people here. Wayne, where did you grow up?
east of, north and east of Sturgis.
Okay.
9 Mile Creek.
So, that's, a little kind of on the northern side of Bearview Valley. So, you got quite a representation of just the people here that grew up in the area. I went about 3 weeks ago, took a trip down the Divide and spoke with several people. There were several people that were interested in coming. Some people I talked to really didn't choose to say anything about the past. So, it was kind of interesting to learn, what people, did and didn't want to share. It was very kind of eye-opening. So, but kind of what I wanted to, when I first approached the society and before I joined it, I kind of wanted to have a lot of people here to talk about, some of the last 100 years or, even longer ago, of the stories that they've heard, or if they were even, grew up in the 40s or the 30s, to share a lot of them memories. So, Mother Nature, of course, didn't cooperate with us today, and, so it kind of took a lot of our crowd away, but I still hope that there'll be, talking with Adam and Lucas, maybe they could get up with Keith, and of course we want to hear some of Ernie's stories of growing up, because he, you know, even though they moved to town, him and his brother with the bus company, you know, the brother Dean still had the dairy, and so hopefully. And then also, Alan, when did you move off of the divide?
72.
Okay. But did you grow up here then? From when you were a
South
child?
of, be south of Alkali Creek.
From when you were a child?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Keith or Adam, you wanna just hop up and give a brief? Or Lucas? One of you three wanna take over for me? And
Yes, you have the shirt on.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
yes.
When you
Let me
say
try.
the divide, what do you mean?
Well, that's what I've always known. Maybe you can take.
It's the flat part between the two creeks up here. This is what we call the divide, because you got the valley on the one side and the Alkali Creek on the other side. So that's what they call it.
For quite a ways.
How big
Yeah.
a area is it kind of? That's, when you say
Pretty,
that.
pretty much, basically from the top of the hill here till you drop down into the Belfouche River, just west of Hereford.
Okay.
You know, that would be really what, you know, people would consider the Alkali Divide.
You, if you go down 34, you look back up, you can see all the finger draws going up, and then it's just, you know, you get up on this nice big flat up here, and then you drop back down into where Alkali Creek is and stuff. That'd be basically what they call the divide. Like he said, there's a lot of farm ground up here on the top. So there's a lot that's been planted back in the grass out.
So roughly probably a 20-mile east and west stretch, and maybe a 3 to 4 mile north and south.
And maybe how many families?
Quite a few back in the day.
There was a lot of places that aren't there anymore.
Yeah, that's true, that's right.
So,
So what
There-
years might have been the heaviest population?
probably in the 20s to 50s.
Pretty much every section was almost at its 4 places. so.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, what was very interesting, and I would have loved to have brought it, but it's about impossible to move. Down in the Alkali Community Hall, there is a map that's in a showcase that I would say, take that mural and lay it sideways, it's about that big. And it's got a map of pretty much the western side of Meade County, specifying in this area, and it's got pins and flag markers for early settlers, families, and the ranches, and
There's a lot of pictures of the original families too. They got numbers along the side.
So where is that?
that's at the Alkali Community Hall, which is about 7 miles east of here.
So is that a community town?
Yeah. Alkali is
It's just kind of a community area.
is kind of,
We have a hall, you know, you
Yeah.
can rent it and have a birthday party there, for
Yeah.
instance, or
so,
whatever.
you know, back in the day when there was still the 6 mile by 6 mile townships, you know, they had, you know, like the Alkali Township.
Was there a school up there?
Yep.
There was an Alkali school. That just closed here a few years ago.
Grade school?
And
Yep.
Oh.
K through 8. K through 8. They've now went on to Herbert so that they actually do the advanced
It's
class.
hard to hear anything about it.
okay,
I'm Ross Lampier, and I live on Meade Creek, a little east, not up on the divide. I grew up in this area in the 50s and 60s, and can kind of share a few of the holes in the story here, but talking about the time when I grew up, my connection with Alkali was through 4-H. And at that time, there were enough people up here that we had 2 4-H clubs, the Alkali Pinafores, and that was strictly girls, and the Alkali Troopers, which was strictly boys. And both were very large clubs, probably 20 to 30 kids, boys and girls in each of us. And we'd meet, of course, in different homes around the area. There were Beigs, there were Keflers, there were Grubels. I mean, they're so plentiful you should spray them. You kind of knew the ones you grew up with. you know, a lot of these younger guys, I know from other things, Keith back there, I saw him in school for many years ago already, so, yeah, but, you know, it was really a great time, and some of the events, you're talking about the Alkali Community Hall, we'd always have big events there, big Christmas party, big dance, and I think they had those well into the 70s. I'm not sure past that time if they did or not. But it was a thriving community, lots of people, lots of kids, and times have changed, obviously. Some of my memories of 4-H, many of you probably remember the Thompson family that lived up here. There were several of them. One of my favorites was Peggy Thompson, and talking about the 4-H clubs. Every other year, the 4-H group here, the Alkali Troopers and the Alkali Pinafores, would be involved in what they call Share the Fun contest. And Peggy Thompson was a wonderful lady, and she would always organize all the boys and girls, and we'd sing. And I remember in Oklahoma, the musical came out, and those were the songs that we sang. And her favorite name for me was Rusty, because when I had hair, it was kind of red. And so she was a great lady, and her comment was, we're only going to do it every other year because we always win the state. So that was, and we did. I mean, it was year after year, whenever we competed. She did such a marvelous job with us that her husband was Clayton Thompson. They never had any children. I think that's probably why she took such a liking to all of us that were in 4-H at that time. Another fond memory I have was playing polo. There was a polo field on the Aga Ranch. Kettleson, sorry. That's right. And it was a big outdoor arena. And then there was another one on Jim Roth's property that's north of Sturgis. And as a young kid, I could make a lot of money because I could make 10 cents a horse walking them between chuckers. And that was a great way for me to make money when I was just a kid. And that was fun. And a lot of those players went on to be professional polo players. Jim Roth went to Colorado on a polo scholarship. He was so good. Bill Hardy, there were a lot of Hardys that used to live up on the divide, and he was a tremendous athlete, as were his cousins and Carol and Dale Hardy. Carol Hardy had the distinction of being the only guy to ever pinch hit for Ted Williams. So he played both professional baseball and football, and had played for Colorado football in his college years. But Bill Hardy trained polo horses over in the Bighorn area around Sheridan, and was a tremendous athlete and came from the Alkali area up here. The other, well, there was Jim Roth that played, we played indoor polo. It wasn't inside, but he had a fence around the polo field, and that was a lot of fun to do that. And so I was real privileged to get a chance to play, even though I was just a teenager at that time, to play polo with some of these guys. And they were good. I mean, there was no mercy shown. If you were in their way, they moved you. I mean, that's all there was to it. But 4-H was real big, and a real big part of my life up here, as was the polo, and the friendships that I've made over the years of the people that lived up here was just phenomenal. So that kind of is a synopsis maybe of the 50s and 60s. And after that time I got busy and had my own family, and so I didn't spend as much time up here in the Alkali community. So these younger guys now can fill that time frame.
This is Adam. Why don't you come up here? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
We're a little ways from that time.
Well, no. You can remember some of the stories that your grandpa or your dad, growing up. Tell us about your family.
Stories.
Yeah, tell stories. Where do you want us?
Where'd you go to high school after you done in 8th grade?
We never did go to the Alcoa High School. The school bus went right, we lived right up here, just off of the pavement a little ways. The school bus went right by our house, so we went to town. But a lot of our neighbor kids, they all went to the Alcoa High School, which is, it's probably 6-7 miles east of our ranch right now. So the building's still there. Kepler's on there. I guess back in 1887, our great grandparents settled where we are right now. The first building built was the old barn, and it's still there. We just put a new roof on it here not so long ago. We cabin it. It's been added on to several times, but it's kind of cool to walk through that barn. You can see all the way that there's a driveway, and then they've got a big pulley system that goes the whole length of the barn, and how they bring in the bundle wagon, and then it had a net on it, obviously, and then the net would come up and they'd tie it to this rope, and then they had a team of horses out the other end of the barn, and they'd just start pulling, and the rope would go up and hit the stopper, and then they'd just take it wherever they wanted to and drop the hay in there. The original house that was there, they burned several, when my dad came home from college, I guess, in the 80s, but the house that my parents are living in now, they built in the 30s sometime. I'm not sure what year that was.
That's a Sears Roebuck house.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
been
catch
added.
the family name.
Grubel.
Oh,
Yeah. Leo Grubel was my grandpa. So.
Louis Grubel would be our great grandpa. They tore all that farm ground up with teams of horses. And at one point they had 25 teams of horses.
That's what the barn was.
And that was what the barn was there for. And the barn was a self-contained, it's got 4 different levels. It's got a basement, it's got a main level, and it's got 2 hayloft levels. And there was a well actually dug in the barn. You could self-contain in the barn for, if you had to shut up, say for the winter or whatever, you could basically keep water in there and everything and stay warm enough in there with the horses, just keep everything thawed out. So that was the theory on it. Like I said, there's a well in the basement, had all the hay you needed for the winter, and they'd stack it to the roof. Yeah.
So like your great-great-grandparents homesteaded out there, how many acres did they get when they homesteaded?
I think it was just a section or whatever to begin with. Yeah.
So they bought the rest of the land from the government, or were
They had sisters and brothers that came out.
And they all got their
They
own
got their
They've all you worked that you.
Yep. And then we had, for some reason, one of them went up in the hills and had a mining claim up there by Strawberry Hill too, but there's not a lot of, that's what's been told, and there's not a lot of knowledge on what
you
that
don't have any
was.
gold, huh?
No, obviously, we didn't strike a rich up there, so they figured farming was a better way to do it.
You buried it in that barn.
And we've had new ranch tours once in a while for the NRCS, and then we had one little gal come out, and she's like, well, how long is this farm, how long has this been farm ground? Dad's kicking around, picks up a horseshoe and hands it to her and says, well, about this long. So, I mean, there's a lot of that's been farm ground forever. So, and it still is, it's still being farm ground.
So do you irrigate it now?
No, there is no irrigation up on the divide. So,
There's not a good enough water source.
Even the Delaware River?
That's way too far.
Yeah, that's-
I mean,
it's-
down, like by the river, they irrigate.
Yeah.
But we're not very close to the river.
Oh, you can't pump up.
like Will said, the divide is considered the upper flat. Once you drop down the river, the divide, it's not called the divide anymore. So, Bellafouche watershed or whatever, I can't remember what they
Fairview Valley.
Yeah, Fairview Valley.
It's funny, you can tell what years were good years for them. We've got a 47 and a 48 Chevy car, a 47 Chevy car, a 48 Chevy truck, and then we've got a we had a Farmall M that was a 48, and then they had a combine that was a 48. And then we've got a 1961, we got a 4010, and then there's a 61 Baylor, and what else was there that was a 61?
Chris.
Yeah. Four things that were bought in 1961, brand new, though, that are on place, you know. And then, there was another year.
Well, when wheat got so low here a couple of years ago, Dad always joked, you know, hell, Grandpa sold it back in the 40s for that. He went and bought a new truck, new car, new combine. Hell, we can't even hardly make a penny now. But, so.
That Studebaker that I drove through the parade, this one, my grandpa bought it in 1936, and my grandpa was born, he was just a baby when they bought it. There was a John Deere dealer, I think it was, or
Implement dealer.
I don't
Your
know.
dad
if
was
it
telling me.
John Deere.
No, it was H.O. Anderson's, whatever implement they sold. It was their delivery truck
Yeah.
from 31 to 36.
And then they bought it from them. And on the way home with the truck, it broke down, and Grandpa was sitting there as a baby, and they must have had phone lines or something, because he somehow got a hold of Grandma. She was in such a hurry, she just left my Grandpa Leo in the kitchen, sitting in his crib or something, and got in the car and got halfway down the driveway and thought, where is Leo? Turned around, had to go get him. She told us that story, I remember that.
That's happened with your Leo yet.
It's okay, Mom, we got it.
Yeah, she was so excited, she just left him. And then I guess they took a camping trip with it, where they took it has a box on the back, so they converted it into kind of a camper of some sort. They took it over to Yellowstone's, there's pictures of it somewhere. Dad and Mom just found them. But then Mom put them in a safe place so they wouldn't get lost. It was a safe place. They're somewhere at the
Never
ranch.
fight again.
I was on them a couple weeks ago, she said she found them, but she can't find them now.
Well, there was pictures of that truck with the camper conversion thing on it. That was kind of cool. But they took it over to Yellowstone. That was where my grandpa took his first steps as a baby. So that's cool. We still have the old 47 Fleet Line car that they bought. Grandpa took that to college when he was a kid.
Where did you go to college?
SDSU. That's where he met my grandma. And then he went to SDSU, they got married, and then they lived in North Dakota for a few years. And then Grandpa got drafted, and then back to North Dakota because apparently they needed ag teachers in North Dakota, and you can get out of the draft, or out of the service if you were going to move to North Dakota and be an ag teacher, so that's what he did. He was an ag teacher for a few years.
That's kind of cool for the car ran into the fire.
And then somehow ended back up at Holt, I guess. But
Yeah, a lot of the equipment, the only real piece of equipment that has ever left the ranch, I think, was that M.
yeah,
They traded it. We've still got my great uncle still got the 4010. I've still got the old Chevy truck. Lucas has got the Studebaker. We've still got the Fleet Line. Combine,
it's there.
it's there. It was still in working up till they pulled it out of the shed because they had to have room for something else. And them things they sit outside for a couple of years and it's all over, and that's what happened. Yeah, there ain't a lot of equipment, so it's all good. You know, you gotta keep that stuff around. Thank you. Any questions or?
So while you guys are up here, just briefly, from explain to, just say, how has farming changed up here in the last 75 years from when your great grandpa was there to how you guys do it today?
Well, they used to farm it and turn it into like a garden. We no-till. So there's a huge difference, I guess. When I was a kid, we used to summer fallow still. I remember sitting in the old four-wheel drive tractor day after day, burning up a lot of diesel fuel, farming, but now we just no-till. We got a big sprayer. We spray the weeds, I guess. That's working pretty good for us.
What's your main crop?
Cows.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we've.
And then you just raise seed?
Mostly, we do raise a little milling wheat, but anymore it's not even really worth raising it. We'd rather raise crops that we could hay and then feed our cattle
Yeah.
with, you know. We do raise quite a bit of oats that we will combine, you know, and then feed our calves in the wintertime. And sorghum, we raise a lot of sorghum, and then spring wheat and winter wheat. We've been experimenting with some cover crops lately, they call them, and that's where the summer fallow, you know, everybody talks about summer fallow, where you go out and farm it all summer long and then plant your winter wheat in it and the ground persists. So we were planting cover crops in the summer fallow, but I don't know, that's just kind of.
What's a crop, what are those crops?
It'd be what?
It's a mixture of a lot of stuff. If you want to see it, we planted this out here beside the.
Yeah, right here.
But no, it's just to cover it, you don't graze it?
No, yeah, you graze
Graze
it.
You graze
It's
it.
basically what it is if you can keep a living root in the soil as many months of the year as possible, it helps the microbes, it helps all the organisms in the soil stay alive and keep eating on stuff, and it makes the soil health a lot better. That's the technical term. Now, on a dry land basis, in a 2-year drought, it didn't work so hot. This year it's working great.
We're gonna have to make it good.
But
There's like mostly broadleaf plants, millet, there's actually some radishes and turnips in it for, well, they grow down in there, then there's a big taproot, obviously, and then it rots down, and then that's where water can get into the ground. In a no-till situation, what is there, 16 different things in it. There's some, they call it rake and vetch and different clovers, millet.
it's just kind of it's just a bunch of stuff.
Looks like
that's
birdseed in
on
a
the ground.
bag when you get it.
Are you spraying that
It might be for-
No, most everything we're planting will winter kill off. So we don't, unless we're gonna plant something else into it, we don't go in and spray into it. And we've, especially over, like Will said, 20, 30, or 30, or 75 years, we usually up here, it was either you farmed or you ranched. And now it's, you gotta do both, you gotta be diverse. And then that really helps your organization because you can do these cover crops, turn your cows in on them, get the grazing off of it, help the soil, help your cattle, you know, and that's, our main cash crop is livestock. We sell a lot of cows and a lot of beef, beef.
We sell bulls through a business called Leachman's of Colorado, and they're a composite breed of bulls. They're Angus, Simmental, Gelby, South Devon. There's a little bit of Hereford, but not very much, like 5% in most of them.
So how does that compare to what your grandparents or great-grandparents spent their money on? Was it also?
They had chickens, they had,
Creams? Were they dairy too?
they had a few milk cows, but I think them were just for themselves. I don't think they ever.
They had sheep, they had diversity, but not to the extent, you know, they had a few here, a few there, a few this, had a little registered herd of Herefords, and a lot of farm ground.
The farm ground, I would say, was their main wheat, probably. You know, and they'd farm it up, they'd have their summer fallow strips and their wheat strips, you know, and then they'd farm the summer fallow all summer long, and then that fall they'd plant their winter wheat in there, and they'd start farming what was wheat, you know, back and forth, and I don't know as though they paid a whole lot, or farmed for feed much, you know, in other words.
You raise alfalfa?
Yeah, we've got a lot of alfalfa. We do a lot of haying. It's summertime.
Especially this year, it's.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. We're trying to put up the second cutting right now.
So the cattle you raise, steers, do you actually have feeder cattle or do you sell them?
We don't have steers, I guess. We don't castrate anything.
We raise seed stock bulls, basically.
They're
is what we
bull
do.
calves, and they're sold.
Okay,
And
yeah.
what
Yeah.
few of them do get steered, they stay on our dime, get down to the feedlot until they're killed. Hanging with.
We own them
You
till they're dead.
maintain the ownership.
Yeah. And we do that so that we can get that data back to work on our herd of cattle and say, okay, now these bulls are more feed efficient, they're doing this better, they're doing that, you know.
They grade them when they slaughter
Right,
them.
great,
You know,
yeah.
prime, select.
Yeah, the days of, well, let's go to the sale barn and sell calves, for us are over. For everybody, you know, and it's a good way to do it, but for us, where we're trying to keep our numbers.
And then all of our heifer calves, they go to, well, we'll either keep them and raise them at home, or the last couple years of the drought, we've had to haul them to a feedlot in Nebraska, and then they AI them down there, which is artificial, they breed them, and then they take them to, we are running them on shares on a guy's place down in southern Iowa, Reading, Iowa, and then we bring them home, whichever ones we want in the fall. It's working pretty good so far, because you can summer cattle in southern Iowa for like $10 a head a month, where around here it's like 40.
So how do you find these people? Is it all connected?
Through Leachman's, Colorado is how we found it.
Through that organization, because we've got so many cooperators in so many parts of the state, or.
They're all over the United States.
Yeah.
And
People
in
from all over
Canada.
the United States bring them, even Canada,
Yeah,
to Colorado to be sold.
or to buy
Are you
bulls
a
too.
big corporation? Or you individually own the ranches?
We're individually owned ranches, we just
Provide
provide
them
a
with
product for them.
No, but I mean you, the Grubels.
Oh, yeah, no, we're just, it's me, my brother, and my dad.
LLC.
It's
Oh, okay.
we're
It's in
under
an
an LLC.
LLC.
It's limited liability.
There is lots of Grubels, they're all branched out of our uncles, our great uncle still got his ranch out here, and he's still farming and ranching, and we've got lots of cousins, we're all, somehow,
It's
my
hard
dad.
to drive up Bellfly Road without seeing the name Grubel.
My dad always jokes, he's like, you know, if you set our family tree down, it looks like a Russian olive gone bad. We're related to Keflers, you know, Longs, everybody. You can't hardly turn a corner without seeing somebody
Find somebody you're related.
Yeah, it is.
You guys spend a lot of time on genetics now. I mean, you have some end goals and you're shooting for something that your great-grandparents probably
The sky
didn't
is
dream
the
of
goal.
doing.
Just keep going.
Yeah. No, yeah, we're very focused on our genetics and everything else. And they were too, but it was all, their Herefords were this tall.
Right.
They weighed 900 pounds and that's what they had, you know, so.
So did you guys go to college, like South Dakota State?
I went to Mitchell Tech and have a degree in agriculture technology.
Yeah.
And I ventured off and went and did power line technology and then decided that wasn't for me and came back to the ranch, so.
So how do you learn all this stuff about genetics?
Just by doing it.
We've been doing it for, Dad's been working on it
Lives.
forever. We're just raised around it, so we
Family business.
picked it up. Yeah, my grandpa knew more about computers than I did.
Back
He
in
was-
the day.
yeah,
He owned
he-
one of the first computers.
Yeah, he was very technical savvy, I guess I should say. So, yeah, and he'd been we actually went through and cleaned out our calving records, or all our data and stuff for our cattle, and it dated back to like mid-80s. He'd been keeping records on
Oh, there was
genetics.
more than that, because
Yeah.
they had records clear back in the 50s. My great grandma kept a lot of them. She had all the cows named. It was kind of cool to read through the cattle. They had enough of them to have them named.
So it's sort of like what they do with horses. They
I
I don't know about that.
Probably not on that level. Probably more on a pet level.
Yeah, our great grandma was very, Oh, she wrote everything down. Yeah, involved and
She was a teacher. She taught on Middle Alkali Road there.
Yeah.
She actually started the senior center in Sturgis. They helped start the thrashing bee, or the Western Dakota Antique Club.
the first two shows were out there at the Alkali Hall. And then they got this ground and they moved everything up here.
Yeah.
And the very first one, I think they did it as a fundraiser for something.
Yeah, that's what it
I
started.
couldn't remember what it was, but it was a fundraiser to, like, oh, well, heck, we got some people that actually want to be involved and do this, so they turned it into a big deal. Here, 50 years later, we're sitting here, still going, still enjoying it, so.
But as you see, he's wearing a bright yellow shirt. I should have one on, but it's soaked. Keith Larrick, he's got one on, and then this is Dave Olson. But we're all board members, part of the board of directors of the Western Dakota Antique Club. So you can see where, you know, the multi-generations has even come down as far as into running this club. You know, I didn't have relatives that, you know, ranched. My dad grew up further into Meade County, north of Red Owl. But the families that took or made this club, you know, they're just, the generations have taken over and, you know, are keeping it going, and that's, you know, kind of why we're here 50 years later.
So as you go farther north, do they have clubs like this? Like, you must come pretty close to Newell, I would think. I don't know.
There's a Hereford Hall, like the Alkali Halls here, and then they have the Hereford Hall, and then there's several different little community halls around there.
But no tractor, no antique clubs like that.
Antique club.
Yes.
This
Cold
is
Springs is cool.
Yeah, I
Cold
said
Springs, north of Faith.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're 140 miles from here. East River, there's quite a few more.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't Elm Springs have a hall too?
probably every little community. has
Yeah, there's a bunch of them still.
little antique clubs.
It's 4-H still big out there.
4-H is very big. We used to, up till about 3 years ago, we had actually the Meade County 4-H fair at the threshing bee. And that lasted about
Just 2-3 years.
about 4 years, I think. And then it just, the timing wasn't right for them. And they have a building down by the high school that they use for the livestock. So they moved it back to all doing that. So.
Are you still on the fair board though?
I am not very active, but I am, you know, also, when the 4-H came out here, I joined the Meade County 4-H board. So I was part of the fair board for, you know, a couple of years, kind of the liaison, whatever you want to call it, from the antique club, to help organize the Meade County Fair.
So are you guys connected at all with the Central States Fair and
No,
what that's going on now?
Not me anyway. There's, you know, members of this club,
They can show
You know,
exhibits
they-
there.
you know, they have some exhibits down
Oh,
there.
I see, you
But-
can show them, but
Yeah.
you're not, you're government. I mean, that seems to be more of a urban fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith, you have anything that you want to talk about? Share?
Sure, talk about my family.
Yeah. Bruce, why don't you come on up?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Bruce.
Come on, Bruce.
You were hiding by the door, I can see it.
Hiding by the door, for what? Would you like to introduce yourself?
You know where you're saying?
Oh,
No, this is my father, Bruce Wyrick, and my name is Keith Wyrick. My grandfather was also one of the founding members of the Western Dakota Antique Club, and it's a great pleasure to keep doing this. My great-great-grandfather immigrated through Ellis Island in 1903 and homesteaded down along the Belfouche River, along with, I think he signed a book with a Malater and a Kiefer, which Malater name is kind of off now, but Kiefer are still neighbors 100 years later. And then I guess Dad still has the pleasure of owning my great-grandmothers, which is a Lorraine. They were also from Luxembourg. One on their claim shanty up top of the hill. It stands somewhat strong. And, oh boy. I have the pleasure of owning the Wyrick and Wolf Schoolhouse there from the.
A little more volume, but you've got it.
Sorry about that. Big guy, little voice, I guess.
So you immigrated from Luxembourg? You got your
Yeah,
relative?
his grandfather, yes.
My grandfather and grandmother both immigrated from Luxembourg, not knowing each other before they came,
Right.
even from different class of people from Luxembourg. Got over here, homesteaded about 3 miles apart from each other, figured out that they were both speaking German and in the same community, and got together.
Yeah.
And we still have my grandmother's homestead. The shack that my great uncles built for her that was on top of the hill.
Yeah.
And it was built on top of the hill so she could put a lantern in the window every night. So my great uncles could check on her by just looking and see if the light was on and they knew she was all right. They didn't have to ride the mile and a quarter up to check on her and stuff like that.
What was her family name?
Lorraine,
Lorraine.
yeah. She had, I think, 9 brothers and sisters that also came over.
Yeah.
Teresa Castile, I don't know if anybody know her. She would be my dad's first cousin.
Okay.
There were some other people down by Rapid. There were some clear out. Aunt and uncles got clear out by Howes. Some of the Bashans in the valley. One of my great aunts married a Bashan down in the valley. That's kind of like the Grubels were related to everybody. The Grubels are kind of related from this way south, and we're related to this way north. We didn't want to get mixed together.
So you're not intermarried with the group?
Not that I know of. Somewhere down the line, there could be some connection.
Other than, I think there's Keffler that I think we both be related
Because Luxembourg is a really small country.
to. 99 square miles.
And that's where my great-grandparents are from. And I think they immigrated more into Minnesota. They went to the Minneapolis area and then out near Millbank.
Well, where's the Grubel name from?
Yeah.
Germany,
West here.
is it?
Is it Northern Germany? Luxembourg?
I think so.
Because that's the Kefflers, the Duprels, Keevers, the Malters, they're all from Luxembourg. And they all, imagine that, they all wound up in the same place out here.
Yeah, my grandfather Jacob is the one that Jacob Wyrick. He actually came to the United States. He was a tile mason.
Yeah.
He came to the United States to put tiles on new buildings at Fort Meade.
Oh,
Up until a few years ago, there was a building there that still had tile on it. I don't know if it's something that he did,
yeah.
but there was still tile on one of the buildings, the post office building there. Like I said, now it's been replaced, but I always remember going by that building.
Yeah.
I think that's why he came here. There was always a story that he jumped the ship. He was supposed to be married the next day. He jumped on a ship and came to the United States. I don't know how much truth there is about that, but that story's pretty implanted in our family. So.
Did she follow?
I don't think so. We still have relation in Luxembourg on this side of the family,
Yeah.
and they're still in contact with.
Oh, you keep in contact?
Yeah, they've came over and visited. It's been a few years now. My dad actually during the Korean conflict was stationed in Germany, and he spent a lot of time with them. He was stationed not too far with them, so he spent weekends with the Wyricks in Luxembourg during the 50s.
I was sitting in my office one day and I got an email from a guy in Luxembourg who wanted to know if we were related because he had found me on the internet, same last name, and probably were. But I had a cousin who had an extended family tree that traced it back to Luxembourg. I just put them under him. I didn't follow that genealogy.
I guess getting back a little bit to the starting of the club too, I can remember I was 12 years old. Bud Bike had bought a steam engine, which was something really far-fetched back at that time, and he took it to the county fair. And he got together with some of the neighbors, and I know maybe this story was already talked about, and they decided they were going to go out to the Alkali Hall and run this steamer and a thrash machine that he'd found. So my dad, Bud, they were about all the neighbors, I mean the ones that were local here, all came out there for that first year and just had a good time and decided they were going to form a club and start doing this every year. So it's kind of went, and that was, like I said, I was 12 years old. I've been probably to most of the shows. There might have been a few that I was not able to attend, but I've been around most of them. So, and then they decided to buy this piece of property and we moved stuff up here. Somebody decided there was a big engine up in Hill City, we better grab that. And the National Guard came down and we put it together. I was part of the National Guard when they put that together. I was already, had graduated that far up, so the National Guards put a lot of, all these roads out here. They don't look like much for gravel, but they have about 2 foot of natural pit run gravel out here. That's why these don't settle away. All done by the National Guard. So there's been a lot of stuff out here done. A lot of volunteers. A lot of volunteers that are gone. I see a few of them, like Ernie. He's been around forever.
So what was the first tractor out here? Was it a Brumley?
The first one was a Case Steamer. That's the one that's in the parade. That's the first tractor. That was the one that Bud Bike bought. I don't even remember where he got it.
It came out of Kansas when he bought it. It was sold new to the city of Denver.
Yeah.
And they used it on the street departments in Denver.
Yeah, it was not an agricultural tractor.
Oh,
okay.
The front axle has been set back so it would turn short enough for the Denver streets.
Yeah, yeah. And it had, I think it had a roller in the front too, didn't it? At one
I don't
time.
know.
That's what I remember, just, seeing some of the pictures and stuff. Instead of having the 2 wheels, it actually had a roller in front.
Oh.
And then the thrash machine, the old thrash machine, I think, is one of those over here in the, if you see there's an open shed over here with several thrash machines, that's one of the original thrash machines. And that's something that I think Bud probably had that was just sitting around. And they kind of put it together.
It was working.
Yeah, oh yeah, they harvested.
They did all the pulleys and stuff. Because aren't they wood? Don't they?
Most of them are, there's a lot of steel in most of them, the later ones.
Yeah.
There are some wooden ones. There was Max Grubel. He was another one of the ones that started the club, and he had a fully wooden thrash machine. And I don't know where it's went to now. It was up here for a while, but I think it's left. But the later ones are all still here. Is it still over here in the shed? I mean, there's so much stuff around here. I don't.
Yeah.
We did have a couple more pieces up here. They drove them through the parade, and then kind of when the weather started coming, they didn't get put back up here. But out of the two, there's 2 tractors out here. Along with the Case steam engine that Bruce had mentioned, there's a Case cross motor. And it's now owned by the Gene Williams family, but it was bought by Ambrose Michon and got running for the first few shows. So that's one of the other tractors that have been here for ages in the club. The John Deere D sitting out here was purchased from the Michon family. Do you know any history on that thing? Was it used out here, or is that just something that they had bought?
We came in South Dakota over 2 falls, and how it got out here, we have no idea.
Okay.
Earl Bashan had it, they had a wiring line.
So it's been in Meade County probably half of its life at least. They had a Titan tractor out here that's also owned by the Williams family. That was owned by the Bruckle family, which farmed and ranched on the east side of the Bearbeat River in the Hereford country. And like we talked about with the Grubel family, with their Studebaker truck, there's pictures of that at the first show.
The thrash is good.
Oh, yeah.
There's also a picture in the book that we need to recreate for the 50th book, so.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of kids in the back and a bunch of people piling on fenders and in the camp, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of those old tractors. The one that Keith drove in the parade, my dad purchased that from Grubel's for during the second show. So that one that he drives has been around here 49 years. Well, it might have been here the first year. So it's been around. The old F-20 that I bought, if you're from Sturgis and familiar with the Sturgis area, if you know where the Murray Edition is, that tractor was the tractor that farmed the Murray Edition. When that was sold at farm sale, I bought it. I'm the second owner of it, but that's where that tractor, it's been basically sold at Black Hills Implement, new in 1939 or 1940. So it's been right here all the time too.
Yes.
Does anybody remember a guy named Joe Martin?
Yeah.
I don't know how involved he was, but less than 40 years ago, I got to drive one of his tractors. So,
He was around all the time. I can remember Joe.
yeah,
Back, it's been a long time.
he worked with Fort Meade, and I thought he was probably pretty involved back then.
Yeah, he was around. A lot of those old guys that are around, they're just gone. I mean, it's getting so now some of the second generation is gone. I mean, like Martin Bike is gone. He was here when we started. He's gone. He was actually a second generation. So
You guys are talking about Bud Bike's thrashing machine. What is that? Where'd that go?
He disappeared.
Oh, he's got a great big thrashing machine up there, but it was one of them that you could drive and it had a header on it. Or you pulled it, it was a pull type.
the full type combine.
Yeah, and it's sitting in the trees up there. He knows Adam knows a bunch about it. Can't believe that.
Yeah, that's sitting at Dan Bikes, clear at the north end of the tree strip.
No, it's
Have they drug it back down
it's
there?
at Bike's place over there.
Oh, they drug it.
There's
Oh,
I think
one
there's
down.
one at the old Keffler place too. But it's got some trees growing up there.
Isn't there one of them down at the Keffler place too?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, I think there's one at Dan Bikes or Harvey Bikes place at the north end
There
of the tree
could
strip.
be there too.
That's one thing, mentioning Harvey Bike. Another interesting thing about how you looked at things back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s as far as equipment. If you could do something to make it better, you did it. You didn't just run to town and buy a new tractor or a new chisel or something. If you could take this and put it together, you went farming. And one example of that, and I wish I could have brought it, but this summer has been so hectic that it didn't get brought up here. It's sitting in my front yard. But I've got a 1944 McCormick Daring W9 tractor that Dan Bike, and that would be Harvey and Jerry Bike's father, took a 1949 or 1950 Oldsmobile V8 and put that motor in this tractor and used it to farm with. They farmed with it from about 1957, 56 or 57 is when Harvey said they put that motor in, and they farmed with it till about 1961. And then, from the stories I've heard, it got parked because of mechanical failure, parked in the trees. I kind of heard about the tractor the year after I graduated high school, so 2003. I went and talked with Harvey, talked with his mother about it, and eventually got the tractor bought. It sat up here for several years at showgrounds, and then I just hauled it home. It's going to be one of them pieces that when I do get it up and running and restored, it'll kind of fit right back in out here at the club grounds. But that's one thing that, as far as going back to the agriculture of this area, it's one of them things that back then, if you couldn't go buy something new, you made something work or made it better, made it bigger. That was back, when they quit using it in '61. I kind of have the luck of having some access to some very old records for the John Deere dealership in Sturgis, where I work in Vaucluse. They still have the records. I went through one Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning at work and looked up the bikes, Grubels, Keflers, Duprels, the Duprel family north of 34, to see what all they bought. And it was very interesting, you know, going back to what Lucas and Adam were saying, you know, the certain years, you know, that were good, you know, you see what they bought, you know, and that was the big thing. 1961, there was 3 or 4 people on this 10-mile stretch that bought brand new 4010 John Deere's from Duprel Implement in Sturgis.
We had
That was
1961 John Deere 4010.
that was the big technology change. You went from the 2-cylinder tractor to that new 6-cylinder, a lot more horsepower, and that's when they kind of, you know, they did that upgrade, and then a few years later they upgraded to the 5020s, 5010s, and then when the 4-wheel drive tractors come out, you know, so they just kept getting bigger and bigger. So, you know, that's kind of when you saw, you know, I guess the technology, and that's what's coming into this club now, because Keith's grandpa didn't farm with a steam engine, so you know, people my age, Keith's age, you know, we're coming out here, especially the people that don't have anything to do with the club and come out to watch the parade. You know, they're coming out to see what their grandparents had, and that was the 50s and 60s equipment. So that was kind of neat to see just that evolution of just even the equipment on the divide down in the valley. I wish he could have been here, but I think he's hanging or up by our pen right now. But Keith and I's good friend Andrew Duprel, his great grandfather owned the John Deere dealership in Sturgis from about 1960 to I believe 74, 75, right in that neighborhood, and just hearing stories that they have told about, you know, they had the luck of there was a brand new piece of equipment on the lot. They needed to go take it out on the, you know, brand new 4-wheel drive, and then they were out testing it out, you know, just take it back to the dealership, sell it as a demo or a used piece. So, you know, that's kind of, you know, the equipment is what's really evolved around here. You can step in on here.
Where did was Yvonne Wyrick?
Yeah, Yvonne is my mother. The reason I wasn't here when this started, I was giving her a ride home. She decided after the rain it was time to leave. So she went back to Rapid.
Did she teach at VH?
Yes.
Really?
This is actually her collection of typewriters.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
She collected it and still does collect typewriters, and that's her collection.
And that was your mother?
That's our mother, yes.
And Leo's wife?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I didn't know she was still alive.
Yeah. She'll be here a week or so. She'll be 87. She's another one of the founding members, I guess.
Yeah, well, I knew they were, but I didn't know that she was still with us. That's great.
Yeah, she was out here all day, riding around the golf cart, checking out everything.
And does anyone know where Homer Martin lived? Whose place was that originally?
Homer Martin, at the time the club started, he lived on the place down here,
Yeah, I know.
right where the two places separate, or the road separates. He lived right there.
Was that or
Yes.
whose place was that?
Well, right there.
Amos Orr's
Yeah.
place.
Oh. And Homer's mother was an Orr?
I don't know.
I don't. I know at one time Homer lived across, or down in the valley, actually, a place that Duprels live at.
That's where he was raised.
Yeah. It's actually where Andrew Duprel lives right now.
Yeah.
That was where Homer got started.
Does anyone know, there's a Protestant church down in Bear Butte Valley, about where Benny Bashan lives now. What's the road? This is the area. There was a church there for years in the teens up through the 30s or 40s, and then there's no record of it. There was a cemetery
It was a
there.
Protestant church of some sort. My great-great-grandparents were buried in the cemetery that was there. And apparently, this is only hearsay, Earl Bashan bulldozed all of the headstones into the creek. And so I don't know exactly where it was located. It was someplace on Martin Bashan's place.
Yep, it'd be right across the road from Benny there somewhere.
Yep.
Very close to the creek. That's all I ever heard. I was curious if anybody had ever.
I did find it in one of the history books that it just did a little teeny blurb about it. I think it might be one of the Meade County books. But I mean, it was just a little teeny blurb about it, and it was someplace down right in Bear Butte Valley there.
Because the Catholic Church was there. Well, both of them were in
Right.
Bear Butte, the town of Bear Butte or whatever there. I'm just curious. Hey Gene, would you talk a little about the Williams side and the contributions to the pub and some of the history? You have plenty to say. We'll pry it at you. If you got a minute.
Just spend about 10 or 15 minutes on each tractor you have.
Well, we just have a few tractors that were in the area and whatnot. We don't have a whole lot of history on most of them. Kind of like mechanical stuff. Take them up, fix them. Kind of keep it ready for old kind of thing. There are quite a few tractors from the area here. A lot of them we don't have a lot of the history on. Just kind of gets away kind of quickly. I don't know what kind of questions you guys have.
There, Gene and his two sons, and his late brother, they're the ones keeping the old history alive on the machinery side of things. After the steamers, but before the modern tractor, you look at what we call the prairie tractors. And they're the ones that have all the big prairie tractors down along this line up here. So they're the ones that have saved the tractors that would no longer be, they're the ones that a lot of them got taken away in wartime for scrap. So they've done a good job of keeping that period of history alive for the Western Dakota Antique Club.
So maybe how did the red shed come to be? Some of the infrastructure around here.
Well, I think we built that in '76 up here. We needed more storage. The first building they built there was the Quonset building. And then shortly after that, the Corliss engine was bought and assembled, and then Rick Barrett built that building over that. And I don't know, 74, 75, maybe that was done. And I think in '76 we built this one here, just, my dad started out, he's gonna make a museum in Rochford. He found out most of the stuff was leaving faster than he could collect it. He was only there on the weekends and whatnot. And then the house we had, it was a family home that had been in the family. It got broke into and a lot of the antiques got stole out of it, so he kind of abandoned that idea. And this was just picking up then and starting to go pretty good. And so he decided to move stuff out here and display it here. And that's where the red shed comes from. Originally, the concept on this was gonna be Main Street here, and all these buildings along here were supposed to be like an old-time Main Street. The log cabin, schoolhouses, blacksmith shop. I think Bob People actually moved the blacksmith shop in. And it was actually from a schoolhouse that used to put the horses in. Kids rode to school. And the red shed was built to look like a railroad depot, was what it was built to look like. With that 1x12 siding on it, it's kind of the point where the thing was falling apart faster than we could fix it. So we decided to tin it. But a lot of people can remember when that was moved in there, you know, that just wasn't part of history at all. That was built right where it says. But anyway, it's kind of funny to listen to people and how things can get so far off the track of what really was. But that building was built in 75 or 76. I know it was done before I got a house. There's pictures of it in that 76 building that didn't have doors on it. So that's kind of basically what 76 was the year it was built. And that's how that came to be. It was just more storage. You know, buildings just slowly but surely kept coming and on. As far as I know, we're still out there only, so that's good.
Well, thank you, Gene. Well, Ernie, I think your time is to shine.
What's that?
I think it's your turn. Would you like to get up and talk a little bit about some of the memories you have of growing up in Meade County and around Sturgis, and
Oh, I suppose
especially out on the farm?
I suppose I could.
Okay.
Probably won't believe what I say anyway.
Well, probably won't, but
You can probably remember in the 30s when the grasshoppers were so thick.
No, I'm not that old.
Tell us about it.
I can remember in the 30s when the grasshoppers were so thick. Some of you folks might have remembered it. They used to be clouds of them going over. And then in the afternoon, when they got tired of flying, they'd land on the sides of the barns and houses and fence posts. The sides of the buildings would be just solid grasshoppers. Remember that? Just solid. Fence posts would be just, because they get in the shade, you know, they in the shade. I don't know where they went, but there were just hundreds and thousands of them going.
How long did that last? Like a week, 2 weeks, month?
Oh, well, I can't remember. I can't remember, but it lasted quite a few days. And I don't know where they went. I suppose they turned on the Kansas. Colorado. Yeah. Do you remember?
I think the government had a program where they distributed
Poison.
Yeah, it was sawdust with strychnine in it, I think, and it was wet. We sprayed that on the fields, and the grasshoppers eat it and kill them, but couldn't get rid of too many of them.
I think I read one where they went to Colorado, they've never been back.
Yeah.
No, seriously. They don't know what happened to them. They're just-
Yeah. That time and changing everything, the way to farm it, you know. Telling about John Deere, Dad, we lived out north and east here ways. In 1931, Dad got a John Deere 1931 GP, general purpose. We still have it. It wasn't in the parade today. But he'd start that thing up and we'd farm a mile long, you know, the whole long. And he'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start that old GP tractor. And in the spring, you know, you could hear that for miles. And he'd start that up, and us kids, I'd get up in the morning and he'd go home and pack a lunch. And that tractor would run from daylight until clear up 9 o'clock at night. And what really amazed me, that old manifold would be just red hot. You couldn't imagine it. The machine would be running like that. And then he'd run that all day, and I'd get out. The schoolhouse was right at the end of the field. I'd jump on that, and I'd run the tractor till 9 o'clock at night. And then it'd start up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Them were the good old days, I guess.
Where were you raised?
What's that?
Where was your family home?
Oh, it's just out north and east here about, the Fairview Church down the valley here. We live north, 6 miles north of that.
we've ordered, Alfred Duprell on the south side, he was on the north, and he's on the south side, right in that area. We didn't have a very big place.
So how many acres?
How many acres?
Yeah, mile long, mile by mile,
Well, I don't know.
that's a lot of land back then.
Yeah, I can't remember, I couldn't tell you. It wasn't too wide, you know, but, we didn't raise much, it was so darn dry, terrible dry, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
So did you leave the farm right out of high school?
Well,
I know Dean farmed, but were you involved in that post-high school, or did you?
well, when we got out of high school, my two brothers and I got out of high school, I got out in, I think 43, and they got out in the next year. And all three of us went to the World War II at the same time. I don't know what our parents thought. Three of the boys just left the same week. But we all got back safe and sound. I was over in the Pacific. Eddie was over in Germany, and my other brother was in Italy. So, but we all got home safe and sound. That was the main thing. So, what else did you say?
Oh, no, but you didn't go back did you go back to the farm after you got out of the war?
Well, when we got back out of the service, there wasn't much going on, and my brother, Eddie, and I, we worked in town. When we went to high school, we worked in a cafe, and this lady's husband had the taxi business, so when we got back from the service, he decided he wanted to sell the taxi business, so we did. And then in Whitewood, they had, the school in Whitewood had 6 kids, and Mr. Namas come down and said, he wanted if we could transport the kids to Sturgis, being cheaper than having school, their teachers and everything. So we took a 41 Chevrolet, cut it in two, stretch it out and make 11 bins so we could all 6 kids. And then it kept getting a little bigger, and we had the bus business. We were on that. I drove bus for, I think, 55 years. Probably half of it rode in our buses. But anyway, we had 22 buses, and we run 383,000 miles in 9 months. And we did all the tire changing and the mechanic work. We did everything. Tried to save the school district some money. I can remember some days before they come out with nylon tires. They just had those old rayon tires, changed 8 tires in a day. Got to be an expert at that, didn't take long to change one. But, yeah, other than that, well, yeah, my one brother, Eddie, both of my brothers passed away. Donnie, he was went to college down in Brookings, and he was an engineer for J.I. Case. And he invented a manure spreader that had no gear, run by a belt, by V-belts. It's sitting back over here. I should get that out and bring it over here and set it up. And there's a little history on that. Now, he was quite an inventor, my brother was. He said that when he worked at J.I. Case, they said he was a genius. He could look at a piece of machinery and he'd say, well, that isn't right. And he, on that manure spreader, you know, they must go like this. He said, cut a quarter inch off of one of them blades and then we'll straighten it out. And they did, and then just run as smooth as could be after. Well, he knew, I don't know. Yeah. Other than that, well.
Did you have sisters too, Ernie?
Pardon me?
Did you have sisters too?
Yeah, I had 4 sisters and there were 4 of us boys. Let's see, Anna my sister, she was real active out here. I don't know if you knew Anna. She was worked in the kitchen over there. She was really involved in that. And my other sister, she was an artist. She painted that picture there. We had that on the north side of the barn out home for years, and finally I said, well, we better do something with it. It'll be deteriorated.
Who was she?
4 boys and 4 girls.
Who painted, what sister painted this?
Doris, Peggy. She was our youngest sister.
Are you the only one left?
What's that?
William, or what was her last name, Ernie? Your sister?
What was your sister's last name?
Kendricks. She married Doyle Kendricks.
Oh.
But she passed away. Let's see, it was just Dean and I, the only ones left of the family. Let's see. Yeah, we had 22 buses. We had a lot of red owl, white owl, carcass, Union Center and Aining out in that area. Then we had one in Elm Springs and one up New Underwood. Had them scattered all over.
Do you have any still around for old time's sake?
Pardon me?
Do you have one stuck away anywhere
What?
for a memory? Do you have any of your old buses?
Oh, lots of
Anywhere?
numbers.
No, you don't own a bus currently just for a collector, do you?
No. No. Well, I got a few pictures. Yeah, we didn't make much money, but we sure had a lot of fun. People that, after driving for 55 years, you know, it's kind of strange, it's kind of shocking and scary. Our grandson got married down in Vermillion a few years ago, and my wife had friends that had a family down in Lincoln, Nebraska. So we was down there, and our sister-in-law, she invited us out to a big old swanky place for evening meal. Had to get reservations, and we was sitting there eating, and pretty soon some folks was leaving and says, "Hi, Ernie, clear down to Lincoln, Nebraska." You know, you can't get by with anything.
Well, appreciate you sharing all that, Ernie.
Yeah, that was, like I say, it was a fun deal, but a lot of work. Yeah. Now, we did a lot of, and there was 2 different things we did. One time, we run all international buses, because, you know, you could change the wheels and just every part, you know, that instead of have a Ford and a Chevy and international, we had all international. And there was 2 things that we did that, one time, International called and I answered the phone, and I answered the phone, it was International. She said, the man said, "You're one of the 18 school bus companies in the United States. We want to find out if there's anything we can do with internationals, or, you know, the engines and the chassis that would be better." Then, so I said, yeah, there's 2 things that we did. The alternator is a great big thing, about as big as a coffee can, and they had just a little bracket on there, and out in this country road, it'd snap it off, and the only thing that held it from falling on the ground was the fan belt. So we built a bracket on that to blow it off of I think off the head of the water pump or something, and we built a bracket on that so that it wouldn't snap them off, you know. And another thing, on that V8 engine, the exhaust pipe comes from one side to the other, down and then down. Well, it gets so hot that the thing would just melt down, you know, and you lose your exhaust pipe. So we built a kind of a little clamp on there so that it will hold the exhaust pipe up. And after that, you get a new bus, and there was, they should have got a little royalty off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something. can't think of anything else.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the crowd that has any memories of growing up in this general area that they'd like to share? Alan, you got anything you'd like to share?
Except my dad's tractor's owned by that guy right over there,
Which one's that?
the old Samson.
Really?
That tractor came from was always right in the area here. His dad sold it to George May, he lived just up the road here,
Okay.
a few miles, and George had that tractor at the show here in the early 70s. There's pictures in the 76 show book of that tractor, I believe. And we bought it from his daughter several years ago, back in the early 90s, I believe it was, and brought it back to the show. It had been gone from the show for several years, and we bought it from them and brought it back, and have had it here ever since. So.
Is that something your dad bought new?
No,
Okay.
it's a 26, 27.
Early 20s, I think, somewhere in there. Yep.
So what was the brand?
Samson. It's General Motors' version of the Ford.
Oh,
It was made by General Motors to compete with the Ford tractor.
yeah, the little Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The General Motors version was quite a bit higher price,
Yeah.
and the Ford just outsold them.
And I can remember when we were little kids, the rattlesnakes were so thick. And Mom, she'd come out every once in a while, we'd be out playing in the yard, and I can remember we were just little boys, had a stick about that long, beating up that rattlesnake, trying to kill it. Mom was always checking on us. We never got bit, though.
Anything else, anyone? Well, I think we ended that on a very good note for the conditions that we had, and, the rain and the clouds and everything kind of may have shied a few people away from coming, but looks like it turned out to be a great chilly afternoon now. So I want to say on behalf of the Western Dakota Antique Club, thank you for the Sturgis and Meade County Historical Society for letting us put this on, be your fall scoop of history. It was kind of everything I was hoping it would be, hoping for a few more people, but it was better than anticipated, I guess, when I saw what was coming this afternoon. So thanks to everyone that has spoken and shared memories, and if you guys didn't want to get up and talk now, there'll still be some opportunity to visit. Should be ready pretty soon, if not right now. We're having the Western Dakota Antique Club's Board of Directors is putting on a barbecue, and it's in the auxiliary building, which is the yellow building over on the north side of the Quonset. So we got burgers and steamed corn and birthday cake for the 50th anniversary of the show. So I want to welcome everyone to go over there and have a burger or two and eat the cake.
Thank you.